Hello, thank you for having me today. Let me introduce you to Bison this afternoon. Bison is a project where we develop a tool that supposedly will make the selection of open access journals easier to researchers. As we speak, we are at the end of the design phase and just starting the software development, so there's no final tool yet that I would be able to show you. But I will give you insights on the ideas we have about the tool, on the underlying technical concepts, as well as some facts and figures on the project in general, our project schedule, as well as first results. As a starting point, let's imagine a scientist in the process of preparing an article. She's wondering in which open access journal her results would fit best. Please note, we assume that the researcher wants to publish it open access by all means, be it due to requirements of a funder or institution, due to personal conviction, or a combination of those, or whatever may have led her to this premise. Let's also assume that she does not necessarily want to follow traditional journal preferences of her research community, or she does not have knowledge about such preferences for whatever reason. However, she notes that it is not easy to reach an informed decision here. Out of all the journals out there, how to pick out the most relevant ones that have published similar research recently, how to comply exactly with all the details of her funder's open access policy, how to be sure to not fall for a predatory publisher, etc. Also, she is aware that her library takes care of covering the APCs for some publishers, and she would like to proceed the support if possible. It is a pretty complex task, if you ask me, for someone who actually has better things to do. At that point, Bison will provide support, and in a nutshell, Bison will be a tool recommending open access journals in which similar research has been published previously. The researcher visits Bison on the web, where she is offered an input screen similar to the draft you can see here. There she can enter some text blocks from her manuscript, such as the title or a preliminary title, the abstract, and or the DOIs of the works she cites in her manuscript. Bison will then carry out a similarity analysis using a combination of a semantic and a bibliometric approach, which I will return to later. Based on that similarity analysis, Bison will then return a list of journals ranked by relevance, as you can see in this draft. For each journal, Bison will generate a journal fact sheet with detailed info. We are also discussing a comparison feature to further support the user's decision. Users will be able to filter the set of suggested journals by criteria that might be relevant for their decision, like in this sidebar on the left. The right sidebar might be used to adjust the search on the fly. Please note the mock-up drafts that I showed you on this slide and the last one are only for illustration. The final user interface will very probably look different. As I mentioned, Bison will take information from the manuscript to be published, entered by the user, and compare it to the corpus of all articles appeared in all journals listed in the DOAJ. From that, Bison will generate a similarity measure on which its recommendations will be based. For this purpose, Bison will combine two methods. First, a calculation of the semantic similarity of the user input against the DOAJ article level metadata corpus. This semantic component will apply machine learning techniques. DOAJ currently contains 17,000 journals that are, as you probably know, quality assured by a board of reviewers according to a set of criteria. For example, journals applying for DOAJ listing have to use a peer review process. They have to publish new articles on a regular basis. They have to use an open access compatible license model, and so on. DOAJ provides article level metadata for more than 6 million articles that have appeared in all the DOAJ listed journals in JSON format. In order to store the DOAJ data, we will use Elasticsearch. It provides built-in tools for text analysis, which we already tested. Early tests with other similarity measures, for example, document vectors, have been carried out as well. Second, a technical implementation of bibliometric algorithms proven in library practice will be used to calculate the bibliometric similarity. This will be based on Open Citation's COKI index. COKI is an index of cross-ref DOI to DOI references maintained by Open Citations. COKI gives us the possibility to include over 1 billion citation relationships into our calculation. In order to do this, we will put the data into a Postgres database. So the tool will combine these calculations and display the results to the user. There will be filtering options, as I showed earlier, for, say, license, APCs, etc. The information displayed for each journal in the results list, as well as in the individual journal fact sheets, will be also provided by DOAJ, like title, publisher, subject area, license, etc. We are currently discussing, however, to include other sources, as we learned that researchers might need a few more details to compare and decide, such as Plan S compliance, for instance. So due to the ever-changing corpus of underlying data, data sources will be updated regularly, and the training process will be repeated regularly as well in the final tool, about once per month. Also, we are discussing if Bison would be able to support languages other than English. However, this poses a challenge in similarity analysis, and we'll see how to deal with this. Also, while working with DOAJ's and Open Citations data, we will analyze which article components give us the most reliable results in textual similarity analysis. In addition, we will provide an API for advanced usage and local integration. This will allow libraries to include information for which journals they cover APCs, for instance. Next, let me give you a few facts and figures on the project in general. Probably you have already wondered where the name comes from. So it is an acronym for Bibliometric and Semantic Open Access Recommender Network. But I personally love to illustrate conference talks with beautiful photos like this one. So that could well have played into the fact that we ended up with the name of an adorable animal. Project partners are the TRB, the German National Library of Science and Technology in Hanover, and the SLUB, the Saxon State and University Library in Dresden. Both libraries having a focus on the science, technology, engineering, mathematics fields. Our most important partners, of course, providing us with the data are DOAJ and Open Citations, as mentioned before. During our 2-year project period, we received funding by BMBF, the German Federal Ministry of Research and Education, as part of their funding strategy to accelerate the open access transformation. Okay, we have built a community of librarians, open access professionals, and researchers that we regularly consult in terms of specifications for the tool, as well as later in the project, acceptance and quality of its results during testing. So community participation will accompany the whole project, as you can see here in our project schedule. For instance, the mock-up drafts that I showed you earlier are the result of a community workshop that we held in September. Also, our community helped us a great deal in distributing our online surveys among researchers, which was part of our requirements analysis work package. As for the requirements analysis, by means of the online survey, we gained insights into which journal properties are important to researchers. In the course of the requirements analysis work package, we furthermore did interviews with librarians responsible for publication support services in their institutions, as well as with publishers, journals, platforms, and scholar-led journals. The results of these surveys have been incorporated into the specifications underlying the actual software development phase we are now entering. We plan to provide a better version of Bison in Spring 22 and the final tool in Spring 23, and we certainly will provide the tool on a long-term basis at TRB. So, some final thoughts. We are aware that a journal recommendation tool is not a novel idea by itself, but we claim to do it right by developing it evidence-based, independent of publishers, and as open source software, and by using transparent algorithms for the recommendations. We will also certainly never ever collect, let alone monitorize any personal data of Bison's users. As this might become more of an issue, we think there's a need for such truly open tools. Also, we deliberately take into account the role of libraries as points of reference for publishing within their institutions. Bison is certainly standing on the shoulders of giants. With Bison, we are building upon and contributing to the ecosystem of open scientific infrastructures in full appreciation of the great work of established projects like DOAJ and Open Citations. So I hope that was of interest. We are eager to hear your thoughts, questions, and feedback, so please do not hesitate, and thank you very much.